the term Jesus juke? Jesus juke, when someone hits you with this, I'll give it to you right now. I learned it when I was in college. You have faith in that chair, but you don't have faith in Jesus. Yeah, you have faith that that chair is going to hold you when you sit down, but you don't have a faith in Jesus. Come on in here. I've heard that a lot. So you have faith in your chair you're sitting in. When you sit down, you actually are like, okay, I hope it doesn't break. You don't think that way, but you do. You're nonchalantly think, or you do it. We have faith in our alarm clocks, on our devices. We put our faith in so many things. We have faith in people, our friends, our circles. We have faith that they're going to keep our secrets. They're going to be kind to us. Everything like that. And here in Daniel chapter 3, we're going to dive into the incredible story of 3 men who stood up against the crowd. They stood up against fire. They stood up against a king and certain death itself, trusting God to physically save them. This is the ultimate form of faith. And so I want to go ahead and just give you a brief synopsis on Daniel chapter 3, because it is a lot of verses. So we're going to starting on verse 13. So you guys probably know the story if you've ever seen VeggieTales. So King Nebuchadnezzar builds this giant altar, statue, idol thing that everybody now is decreed they have to go ahead, and every time they hear the specified music, they have to drop to their knees where they are in the kingdom and worship. And the penalty for not doing this said act is certain death by being thrown into a fiery furnace. Yeah, yikes. So that is the synopsis, and where we're going to pick up is actually where these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they decide they are not going to do this. They decide they are not going to follow the crowd. They're going to stand, and they are not going to worship this idol. And so we are going to pick up in verse 13 where they are being brought to Nebuchadnezzar. So you can go ahead and follow along with me. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in furious rage, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought. So they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up? Now, if you are ready when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music, to fall down and worship the image that I made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into the burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego answered and said to this king, "O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up." Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and the expression of his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times more than it is usually heated, which in reality, when I read that, I'm like, it's almost like a mercy, because you want to get this over quick. The hotter it is, the quick, this is something I thought when I read this. And he ordered some of the mighty men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. These men were bound in their cloaks, their tunics, their hats, and their other garments, and they were thrown into the burning fiery furnace. Because of the king's order was urgent and the furnace overheated, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell bound into the fiery burning furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste. He declared to his counselors, "Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire?" They answered and said to the king, "True, O king." He answered and said, "But I see 4 men unbound walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt. And the appearance of the 4th is like the son of the gods." Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the door of the burning fire furnace. He declared, "Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out and come here." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came out of the fire, and the satraps, the prefects, the governors, and the king's counselors gathered together and saw that the fire had not had any power over the bodies of those men. The hair of their heads was not singed, their cloaks were not harmed, and no smell of fire had come upon them. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants, who trusted in him and set aside the king's command." Let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for bringing us all here. Lord, I just want to lift up this time for you, for your words, not mine, as we dive into this story and we can see what it does for us now, here today, as we continue to look to you. In your name I pray. Amen. Amen. All right, it is dry. Okay, so story time. You guys like when I tell stories, right? Yeah, so it's story time. So summer of 2015, I graduated in 2014 from college. In summer of 2015, I was going on an Ocean City trip for a long weekend with my boys. I was 22, 23, something along that. And we went down to Ocean City, Maryland. It was great, had a good time. I forget how long exactly we were there. And while we were there one night, we went out to the boardwalk. How many people have been to the boardwalk of Ocean City, Maryland? Yeah, it is an experience. Yeah, we went out to the boardwalk, and we are walking down, and we're just talking about whatever a bunch of 20-year-old dudes talk about. And the topic of girls came up. And so we're all just chatting, talking about dating, girls, this, that, and the other thing. And I kid you not, guys, I'm walking with them, and I was kind of behind, and there's about, I don't know, there's probably about 6 of us, and the other 5 were kind of in front of me. And I'm just kind of throwing my input in as we're walking. And then all of a sudden, the entire demeanor of the conversation and the narrative changed, and they turned around, this is true, and I forget who even started it, but someone turns around and goes, Tyler, what do you know anyway? You've never even had sex. And I'm sitting there, standing, just shocked that this just came out of one of my friend's mouth. And the next thing I know, it was like a pack of hyenas where it was just like, you've never had sex, you don't know what we're talking about, and it just turned into this terrible moment of one of the most socially awkward situations I've ever been in my life, and it's very hard to make me feel awkward. And I just remember, I'm like, these are my friends. And I just absolutely got ridiculed because I made a decision when I was younger that I'm going to wait for my wife who was in this room. And thank you. And what happened was, it was a weird sensation, and I don't know if any of you guys have ever been in a similar situation like this, but it was a moment where everything just turned on me, and I just felt attacked, and I was like, okay, am I actually doing the right thing? Am I actually doing the correct decision? Am I doing this right? And I struggled for a while with this whole situation. And to be honest, I kind of wanted to fight them, if that makes sense, because I was so angry, and I was angry at God too, because I'm like, is this real? Like, I make a decision, this is what happens, my friends come after me and start making fun of me because of a decision I made. Like, it doesn't even directly affect their lives. Why is this happening? And so it was a tough place to be in that moment. And that brings me to the first point that we have here. The way of the world is easy. The way of the world is easy. And it's something I started to think about as I was coming up with this message is the reason I was treated so differently in that moment, and the way I was treated because no one else in that group of friends got ridiculed like I did that moment, was it was not normal. It was not their normal. You guys get what I'm saying there? Like, their normal was the opposite of the way I was acting or the way I was choosing to act. And let's just get one thing straight. I'm not a saint. Like, it wasn't like I was nailing it and nailing everything perfectly, but that was just a decision I made and I fought for it. But it wasn't normal to them, so they struggled with it. It kind of offended them in a way because it probably made them feel a little odd that one of their friends wasn't doing a certain act that they're doing. And this pressure that came on, and I want to kind of equate it to fire, if you know what I'm saying, because this fire, this social fire, the world, aka fire, is hot and it doesn't like when you're walking a different way. So you guys can take note of that as well. Like, it doesn't like when you're not doing what everybody else is doing. And we see this all the time on the news, do we not? Every time. Like, oh, well, Christians did this. Oh, well, Christians did that. They think this. Like, it kind of makes your head spin. And the thing is, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego could have taken the easy way out. And I want you guys to kind of put yourself in this kingdom where this decree goes out, where everybody has to stop and kneel and bow to this idol. It would have been very easy, would it not, to just fake it? Okay, whatever. I'll drop to my knees and do this for 2 minutes and then get back up and then we can go on our day. They could have done that very easily. And guess what? we wouldn't have this story, I'll tell you that. And have you ever considered how easy it is to fall into your own struggles? Like the ones that you work with, that you are trying to work out day and night. And it can be anything, anger, pornography, whatever it is. Like, have you ever thought about how easy it is for you to actually just fall right back into that? You may have a good couple days, but then you know what? Day 4 comes by and it's like, oh, I fell back in it. It was easy for the others to bow down. And why was it? Because their lives were on the line. He's obviously, it literally is said, like straight up, you're going to die if you don't do this. And they could have had conversations or logic in their head, like, oh, well, maybe, I don't have to do this. Like, I don't have to follow this rule. I can just fake it, and I can serve the kingdom still. Like, I can just get out of this. I don't have to die. And they could just lie about it. Just bowing down meant nothing, right? But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego made a decision that it did mean something. And so, as we move into point number 2, is this pushing back against the world is costly. Pushing back against the world is costly. And for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, it was seemingly going to cost everything from a human standpoint. What I mean by that is they were being ushered into certain death by being thrown into a fiery furnace that was heated 7 times over. But the powerful thing here, and this is, Phil and I had a lot of conversations about this, is verses 16 through 18. And I want to just go ahead and touch on this. I'll repeat it. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. I want you guys to kind of highlight, underline, note that little 3-word phrase, but if not. You can also, other translations say, even if he doesn't. This is very critical to this whole situation because, let's just be honest, they were scared. Like, I don't want you guys to get the wrong impression. They were probably terrified because they're humans, and we are designed to fear death in some way, shape, or form because it's not natural, because it was never meant to be this way. Does that make sense? So I had this fear in them, but you know what? They made a decision to believe, even if he doesn't, we're still not going to do this because he is bigger. And we are going to follow him until the bitter, beautiful end. And in our situations, obviously, next time we get, the situation I was in back in 2015, obviously my life wasn't on the line. You guys, so I wasn't, oh, well, Tyler, if you don't have sex, you're going to get thrown in the fire. That's not how we're looking here. But it is costly for us now in 2019, almost 2020. You can lose friends. You can lose respect, money, security as you start to get older. There's a lot of things you can start to lose. But the furnace was really an illustration of what the heat of the crowd could do to them. Nothing. Nothing. I'll say that again. The furnace was really an illustration of what the heat of the crowd could do to them. Nothing. And this brings me to the third point, and this is where we get to the good stuff after we kind of get through the fire. Jesus joins you in the fire willingly. Jesus joins you in the fire willingly. And guys, this is how we can walk through everything that our lives have to throw at us. You know, when you guys go through something difficult and then you have other friends come up to you, it's like, man, how did you handle that? How did you deal with this? How do you deal with that divorce? How do you deal with the fact that your boyfriend cheated on you? How do you deal, on and on. There's so many things. How do you deal with that? This. Because Jesus joins you in the fire willingly. And we see that at the end of the story when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are in the fire and they are joined by, whether it's Jesus, angel, whatever, he showed up to get them out. You guys get what I'm saying here? So when you're dealt a bad hand in life, and when we're told it's all going to be okay, when it's really not okay. And of course it's not okay because Jesus died because it wasn't okay. Do you guys get that? Like, of course it's not okay. It's not. But Jesus came and died because it wasn't okay. And because of that, we are able to look at a situation like this where Jesus joins you in the fire willingly. I want you guys to take that with you for the rest of your lives. It's hard. It's so difficult to take that on some days where things just are stacking up against you. But I implore you guys to know that he knows and he stands in the fire with us. And it wasn't just to prove some worldly, ridiculous king that I'm bigger and badder than you, because just a little bit more facts on Nebuchadnezzar. He ruled for 43 years, and died at the age of 72. And in the midst of that rule, I actually just learned this yesterday, he was stricken with insanity and lived like an animal for 7 years of his life and was driven out into the fields. So God's economy is not, oh, I got to show up and show off because I got to show that I'm bigger than this worldly king that has 72 years to live and then dies, and then guess what? God keeps on going. It's amazing how that works. No, that wasn't the point. The point was, he's like, I'm going to show up for my people who have stood for me when the fire was getting hot and the crowd was circling around them, and they said, nope, we're going to stand. No matter, even if I'm and you could have probably asked any one of these guys, even if I'm the only one, I'm going to stand. I like to think like that. I try to think like that. I try to be there too, that even if I'm the only one, I'm still going to go this way. And if the furnace could not cook them, the crowd, the peer pressure, the fire of the crowd certainly could not. And the thing is, and I'm sure some of you have seen this, I'm sure some of the leaders have seen this, when we do this, the world recognizes it, and this is what causes the backlash. This is that situation I was in, which was just ridiculous and like out of nowhere and kind of slapped me in the face. They recognize this, but they're not going to praise you for it. They're not going to praise you for it. They're going to backlash you. They're going to make fun of you. It literally says in the Bible, if you follow me, you will have trouble. And don't let this scare you. Let it empower you to know, because again, he's going to join you in the fire no matter what you're dealing with. And so I know we can come to a point where we hear this. It's like, okay, Tyler, I get it. I get what you're saying. But how do we get a faith like this? How do we get a faith like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that had the ability and see the might and the stomach to stand when thousands in front of them decided to kneel in front of this giant altar, and the king who got angry is about to throw them in the fire, and they still were able to stand? And as I was preparing and thinking for this message, I kept asking myself, God, how do I do this? How do I get a faith like this so I'm able to walk the way you would have me and walk with a faith that allows me to stand when things go sideways on me? And then I realized after God told me, and like it just kind of hit me all at once. He was like, Tyler, you're asking the wrong question. The question you're supposed to be asking is, how do I give you a faith like this? And it honestly knocked me on the floor. Because I started to think about it. I was like, it ain't me. It's never me. I know what Tyler would want to do in this situation. Get on his knees and be like, oh, nope, I'm out. Like, no, God's like, he said, I am the one that gives you your faith. And that brings us to the takeaway here. Your faith is upheld by Yahweh, not your way. Your faith is upheld by Yahweh, not your way. So I have another story I want to tell you, that when I started working at Weigandt, or working with Weigandt and being with you guys, like I always wonder, like, am I ever going to have the moment, the courage, the ability, is God ever going to want me to share this part of my life? And I was like, yes. And I felt God saying, like, this is the one. This is where you talk about it. And just a little quick recap. After I graduated college in 2014, May of 2014, some of you may know this. I know my D group knows this. I was previously engaged before that, and the engagement got called off. And I dated a girl for 3.5 years, got engaged. The engagement was called off. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story I'm about to tell you is what happens next. I was working as an equipment intern for an NFL team full-time, and a bunch of guys from all over the country come and work for this internship, about 8 of us, and they found out about it because obviously you're spending 12 hours a day with them and they get to know your life. So they figured out that I was in the wake of this tragic situation, this emotional just breakdown of my life, me trying to figure out which way I'm going to go. And so one night, the team was away, and we had like a Friday night off, Saturday off, or whatever it was. And I'm sitting in my hotel room, and I hear, and so over here, I open the door, and it's some of the interns that I work with. And they go, "Hey, Tyler, yeah, we know you're going through some stuff." They didn't use the word stuff, but it was, they said some pretty other worldly terms. And we wanted to see if you wanted to come with us down to the city, to this part of town. I'm sure you can start to connect the dots as to what part of town they wanted to take me to. And I'm not going to lie to you all, I sat there for a good couple seconds and thought about it. I was young, recently single, in the wake of the worst emotional trauma I've ever had in my life. I had money in my pocket, and I could have easily just said, yes, let's do it. And so I sat there and looked at them. I can still see it right now as I'm standing here. "No, guys, it's all right." And they said, "Okay." And I shut the door. And so I walked back to my hotel bed. I sat down. And I was like, why? Why did I not go? And I was like 22 years old and 23 or whatever it was. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, why did I not go? I had every right in the world. In the world's eyes, I had every right to go. Why? Why didn't you go? And it was that moment where I got saved when I was 9, but it was the first moment where I ever felt like God was like, because you're mine. You're not theirs. You're not the world's. Because your faith is upheld by me, not you. Do you understand? Like, your faith is upheld by me. And so in that moment, and I don't want to play you all right now, because like this started a 4-year journey to hell and back of me trying to figure out life in the wake of all this. And by the grace of God, I got married on September 20th to the woman of my dreams. And so I just want to encourage you. I want to encourage you all, when you're going through it, it's not easy. And when you're in a situation that heavy, it's right in front of your face. You guys remember the last time I was up here with the wax paper? It's right here, and it's all you can see. But in reality, God's like, no, you look at me. You come to me, because I am the one that upholds your faith, not you. And just being able to get to a spot where we are able to be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and able to verbalize the words, like, even if it doesn't, I'm still going to follow you. And so I want to close with a verse, 2 verses in Hebrews chapter 12. You guys can just write these down. You don't have to turn there. It's Hebrews 12, 1 and 2. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. And the part I want you guys to pull out of there is looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith. It doesn't say, looking to Tyler, the founder and perfecter of his faith. It doesn't say, looking to Phil, the founder and perfecter of your faith. It doesn't say that. It says Jesus. He's the one that builds your faith, not you. You can't physiologically will yourself to have more faith. That's not a thing. Jesus is the one that does that. So fall into him. And as I close, I just want to pose this question. You guys ask, how do we get a faith like this? The answer is Yahweh, not your way. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you so much for tonight.